All right, let's go to this issue of use as intended, because that's phraseology that WotC has used in its leak. What was its intended use of
Hmm.
the OGL and so forth. And I thought it was very interesting that when I was going through your dissertation on the subject of you did an extensive history of the entire OGL that we went over here, and you had two different, or excuse me, I think you had four different phases or epochs or whatever, understanding the OGL. And I thought it was interesting that one of your headings and one of your major epics was use as intended. And then you broke that to say there was another thing once that was starting to use as not intended, sort of implying that a different use.
Yeah.
How important do you think that is in WotC saying, hey, there was use as this was our intended use? You kind of documented that history. And part of what you were saying was breaking the intended use was the development of whole new games. However, when talking to Ryan Dancy, because I brought that up, he said that, oh no, we knew that was happening like as soon as we were drafting it because people were already starting that. So I wonder that. So he definitely had. We talked about the D20 license, and I want to clip actually that section out specifically about the D20 license and all of that. But he seemed to say that, oh no, as soon as we were passing this around on servers and things like this, people were already figuring out that they could make their own games and were planning on that, and people had. It just wasn't predominant. There wasn't the sea. All of a sudden, there was a sea change in that. But how important do you think that is?
So that's interesting that he said that, because certainly, in my review of the public statements of WotC at the time of the release of the OGL back in 2000, I don't recall ever seeing anything which indicated that they were aware that people were, or they were sort of thinking it was a realistic possibility that people were going to be using the OGL, other than for the purposes of creating, supplements to DnD. So do I think it's important? I think it's largely irrelevant what they intended, right? I mean, that's one of the kind of magic things about open licensing is intention to a large extent. It just doesn't matter. Which is part of the risk of open content licensing, right? Like one of the things that licensors have to get comfortable with is that what's going to happen is going to be completely unpredictable, right? They can't control. Once you license on a truly open basis, it means people can do whatever the hell they want with the content. That is for a lot of content owners, and understandably so, and justifiably so, that is a very scary prospect. So, intention, like I don't think intention particularly mattered at the time. And I certainly don't think it matters in the context of a discussion about like revocability, right? Like to me, it's completely irrelevant for a licensor to sit there and say, yeah, we licensed it on an open basis, but then people did stuff which we didn't want them to do, or we had no intention of allowing them to do that. Like, well, if they did it in accordance with the terms of the license that you published, your intentions aren't particularly important, frankly.